Welcome everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please. Let me know you can see my charts clearly. Let me know you can hear me all right. How are you all doing this fine day wherever you are? Hopefully you're surviving this bloodbath we're getting here, the old Trump dump. I'll get into that in a sec. Just want a quick confirmation that I'm not talking to myself, and we'll get started here. Exciting times, guys. Crazy volatility today. Yeah. Anybody have any strong feelings about the market today? Crazy bullish, crazy bearish, all good. Right on, right on. Thank you guys. Well, that being said, thank you guys and welcome to another live stream here. Those of you who have been following along with my streams and Telegram posts, you guys know that my opinion on this market is that we are bearish until proven otherwise. Yes, it's very normal to get those bounces and the rallies like we've seen recently, but the midterm trend, no actual bearish structure has broken yet. And by that, I mean this 4-hour chart, we still have this lower low, lower low. That means the highest point between the two is our lower high around 95K. Guys, we just keep kind of seeing weakness sooner and sooner. So, and honestly, every time I zoom out and look at the more macro trend, whether it's the weekly or the monthly charts, it just gets worse and worse every day, in my opinion. So of course, guys, as always, I will take a look at several different time frames and indicators to get a general feel for the market, levels of interest for me, invalidation levels to my theories that I'm going to talk about, and so on. So to start off, guys, we are going to start zoomed out, way out on the monthly chart here, because I want to go over my biggest concerns about this market right here, right now, right out of the gate. Guys, like I said, the further I zoom out, the more concerns I have. I know I've been talking about a couple of these signals for the last little bit, but honestly, a big one for me is just looking at the naked structure of the chart. We have these order blocks. I know this is familiar to a lot of you guys at this point, but every time we break one of these boxes that I have, that is basically where the market has reversed. Or even if a good chunk of the move had already played out like here, it was just an obvious, an SR level, right? Support resistance flipping zone kind of a thing on a macro scale. So as soon as I noticed that we broke this structure, we broke this box going to the upside here. Notice we set a slightly higher high. We ended up getting a big engulfing bearish candle there. Before we got that, everyone was talking about how bullish this monthly chart was, and everybody shut up about the monthly chart except for me, basically, because I'm not blind to the bearish price action and I'm willing to short the price action. But basically there was a lot of red flags with that, just that, like I said, structure broken. We lost that order block. We have a big red engulfing candle there. Now I want to talk about some indicators on top of this. Let's look at this, the MDX Wave Master indicator. I know a lot of you guys see me pull this up from time to time. Notice that, yeah, there's not a ton of data here, but it does go back to our 20K market cycle top, basically. The first time that this indicator crossed it was bearish, and that's where it happened, and it was a perfect market top. Next, at our bear market bottom, we ended up crossing this bullishly, crossing this bearishly. Yeah, we ended up going and retesting that resistance, but the cycle was basically over at that point. On the downside, again, cross bullish, perfect bottom there. And now, guys, just a few days ago, or well, yesterday or the day before, this monthly candle confirmed this bearish cross on the monthly time frame. So yeah, take it for what it is. Anything can happen. That can be invalidated. But the fact that this was overextended, we were up in this bright red territory, we got this bearish cross. I mean, yeah, it makes sense that momentum is shifting to the downside in that case. Something else I want to mention is, now some of you guys with the MDX ALGO community, this is going to look familiar. It's actually one of the very first strategies I came up with these indicators. This is the trend dynamic indicator. One thing that I really like to use with this is these reversal warnings. They're these W's. I haven't shown these on many streams lately, but it is something I still look at from time to time. And what caught my eye is I turned them back on here, and on the monthly chart, just like how I talk about buy and sell signals with my indicators, you guys, I notice a trend with which way they are trending, and notice that with that mega bearish structure, SR flip here, bearish cross on this indicator down here, we also have this lower reversal warning. So W for warning. The only other time this happened on a monthly time frame, there hasn't been many. The only other time that it happened was at this market cycle top. Now, on its own, I wouldn't say that's too big of a deal. Actually, it is actually a setup that I trade even on scalping timeframes. So if this was a 1 minute, I'd be looking at shorting that with invalidation above this as well. So to see it on a monthly is a huge red flag to me. But yeah, I understand there's not a ton of them here, but it is something I look at on shorter time frames as well. And this is something that I often look at for a reversal when we see a shift in those. Just like how I said, if sell signals are trending to the upside, buy signals are trending to the upside. If all of a sudden you get a lower sell signal print, it's just a bit of a red flag that things may be shifting, momentum may be changing. And this is a big one to me, the fact that this lines up with the structure. Right? It's not just that we have a lower reversal warning on the monthly time frame. It's also that it's a big engulfing structure breaking candle. And then getting confirmation by this indicator down here, bearish cross. Like I said, so far it's shooting 100%. So take it for what it is. It can obviously be wrong this time. Nothing needs to be 100%. It can obviously get invalidated, but so far I like to trade charts that are actually there. I don't like to trade a chart by saying, well, what if that gets invalidated? Well, then it gets invalidated and I start trading the upside again. But yeah, so that's the monthly chart, you guys. And to me, that is some very serious red flags because we did not break any sort of an order block. Let all indicators aside, let's get rid of our indicators. Just as far as structure goes, I understand that it feels like what we're doing now is very similar to back here. This was very different structure. We never actually had a bearish engulfing candle that closed below structure or anything. There was no order block that was broken there by any means. So this is very different structure here, much like just this structure breakdown here on the bullish side, right? So massive red flags on the monthly chart, if you ask me. The weekly, yeah, it just nothing has changed on the weekly. So I still think it looks like shit. Basically, we dropped this support level. We broke structure to the downside. We're getting a bit of an SR flip here. Yeah, that's a very crude line, but whatever. Basically coming up and testing the support level as resistance, seeing a bit of a rejection there. The RSI, we still haven't broke that bearish divergence trend line that I've been talking about on the RSI. Since before Christmas, I've been outlining this. So I need that to break to become bullish on the weekly chart. Also, the Wave Master, same thing. We have a big bearish reversal sign here. We don't have a bullish reversal signal yet. So just everything is basically, I'm seeing no reason to believe that we have to have bottomed at this point. It's absolutely possible, right? That's why as traders, we have invalidation levels, and I'm not trading the monthly or the weekly chart anyways. I'm just looking at it to kind of get an overall feel for the market and see, does it make sense to be FOMOing into longs right now? In my opinion, not really. I still like trading shorts, but when I get to support levels, I'm very open to the idea of getting bounces. It's just that I'm more likely to start shorting again as soon as there's weakness in those trends, in those bounces, etc. Just like the 4 hour, right? I was talking about this back basically when we came up right at this level is where I started getting warning that things were getting weak again. Yeah, we got a sell off. Hey, we ended up getting a nice little pump here, but where did we end up getting stopped here? Right at that same level, right? We never did break any structure. And again, even as far as the midterm, the 4 hour trend, the lower high is still 95K. Just because that structure has not broke. We have not broke above the high of this range. We have not broke below the low of this range. So this range is still very much in play. And that's still what I'm focused on as far as the midterm, before getting any sort of hopium for new all-time highs and stuff like that. I have no interest in entertaining that idea until we at least break the midterm trend. And again, don't even get me started on the long-term trend because I just went over all of that. Shorter time frame, I am tempted to take a hedge long right now, actually, and I am actually going to, because I'm still in part of my short on Bitcoin from 101.6K. I still have half of 2 of my SUI shorts open that I ended up taking today. I'll talk about that in a sec here. So I actually have 3 short positions open right now. So I am going to take a long on Bitcoin right here, just because there is potential for this, just like the opposite of that weekly divergence, is we have a potential bullish one here. And yes, it is just a scalping time frame. So remember that, like, as soon as you're sitting in decent profits, don't forget to pay yourself. But yeah, basically just seeing this as a tight invalidation setup for a hedge. So my stop loss just a little bit below 82K, basically. So yeah, basically I have more exposure to the short side still. So I'm hoping this actually ends up just getting stopped out, or even if we can get a nice little rally, I can take some profits and then we can get a reversal. Whatever. I just think that this is a good opportunity for a hedge, just because I see signs, like I said, on a 5-minute chart like this, it's possible that this is a bit of a double bottom here that we got. Even a little swing fail, right? Because we got this very little liquidity grab here. So I was willing to take it, but we'll see what happens. I am by no means bullish. I want to be very clear about that. It's just that the market is very volatile today, and I just see reasons why this could get a reversal here. So I'm willing to, it's more for insurance purposes, you guys. I often talk about that with taking hedge positions. Yes, I'm mostly trading the short side these days. However, when I see an opportunity like this with a tight invalidation like that, I am willing to at least take that opposite exposure, just in case my other theories are wrong, right? Maybe from here we go to all-time highs. Who knows? All that matters as a trader is having certain setups and being able to react to those setups. How you execute your trades are way more important than how you analyze what the charts are going to do. So even though I'm bearish, hey, here's a bullish setup with a tight invalidation, so I'm willing to take it. So that's kind of the thought process there. And guys, this is all stuff that I do talk about in my Telegram channel as well. If that is something that interests you and you just want to learn trading based more so on charts rather than tweets and fundamentals, you want to stay one step ahead of the markets based entirely on price action, no emotions attached, and you want more of my thoughts on the market in general, how I view structure, some of my trade setup ideas and that sort of thing, do yourselves a favor. Scan that QR code to join my Telegram, or there is a link and steps in the description down below. Also, due to popular demand, I have just recently made a bit of a BloFin tutorial video about leverage, risk management, the order types that I use, and so on, which will be shared to this YouTube channel soon here. So be sure to subscribe to this channel as well. And guys, talking about my Telegram here, like I was talking about at the start of this stream, all this bearish price action, it shouldn't have come as too much of a surprise. I was very vocal about this right back to the start of this year. Even late last year, I was already talking about this possible bearish divergence double top, the exact opposite of that 1 minute or 5 minute setup that I'm looking at as a hedge right now, right? But yeah, even just yesterday, had some nice calls in the Telegram. I've been busy this week. I'm doing a little bit of trip planning, so forgive me that I haven't been posting as much the last few days. But I did end up posting this, looking at the 1 hour, just looking for the super fib. We filled the 886, absolutely perfect, went higher. And then yesterday, like I said, guys, I'm in a couple of SUI shorts. My reasoning for that is yesterday I had posted about this, the fact that SUI's 4 hour was starting to look weak, and we had all these indicators kind of lining up with it. My invalidation was to be above 255. We got very close to that level. I was able to take some very tight stop loss shorts in that case. You can see here, actually, let me just get rid of this. Just going to my SUI chart, you can see how close we got to that 255 resistance there. Plus just pulling a fib here. It also had a Stuber fib on a shorter time frame kind of lining up with that. So very quickly, probably at a time I shouldn't have been trading, I took a couple trades there very quickly. But the whole idea was that we were so close to that 4-hour resistance level that I was talking about as far as my invalidation level. So I was able to have such a tight stop loss. And that was all kind of during Trump's speech and stuff like that. So it was volatile in general. Those have played out absolutely beautifully. I still have a chunk of both running. I think I actually ended up taking a little more off one. I think off one of my positions definitely has half running yet. I think it's the lower one here. The top one, I think I have about 30 or 40% still running. Because like I said, just the market does not look good in general. So I'm very open to the idea of basically letting some of my position run. Right. So like I said, this is the setup that I laid out in the Telegram channel. Basically, I was talking about with the Trendmaster indicator, we had, like I was just talking about, lower trending buy signals, lower trending sell signals. Also, like I was talking about with these lower trending W's, notice that that lined up perfectly on the resistance of the Trendmaster indicator. So just a little bit of extra confluence there. Yeah, there was just a lot of things lining up with that level. So I was very interested in taking that short. So far, so good on that one. But yeah, guys, this just doesn't look like a market with a ton of strength to me. It's just, we're not, this SUI chart on the 4-hour, notice it looks just like Bitcoin's 4-hour, other than the fact that SUI actually got up to the Stuber fib pocket. Bitcoin has not been able to do that. So I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe Sui's going to outperform it. I have no idea, you guys. All I know is both charts have bearish structure, and anytime we get up to resistance levels, we're just seeing weakness earlier and earlier in these charts. So yeah, we're going to have to see what happens. How is this trade going? This is a 69x leverage long because, again, tight invalidation. So it's already up 20%. I am going to babysit this one a little bit just until I can start downsizing my risk a little bit. What do we have here? Nothing that exciting there. ALGO Master, that's invalidated. Trend Master, so we do have a sell trend coming at us. At some point, I mean, we're going to have to flip this and get where I'd get really interested in for new shorts would be if we end up breaking above this sell trend on the Trend Master indicator, print a buy signal, and then print a lower sell signal. Because if we get a lower buy, I'm going to assume we're getting a lower sell as well. And another thing to look for then in that case, if we bounce from here, I mean, I think that some very serious levels of resistance will be up ahead. Even if we get a nice strong bounce, I would be very interested in seeing what happens at this level between the 786 and 886. And that would be, the top end would be around 87.8. And the bottom of that at the 786 would be around, call it 87.1. But that's basically where I'd expect resistance to start kicking in if we do get a nice little rally here. That long is up 33%. I'm going to close a quarter of it. There we go. Because guys, I always take profits quickly. I always treat, when I enter a new position, even though this is a hedge, I'm still looking at trying to make a couple bucks on it before it ends up reversing here. I am bumping up my stop loss to break even, which is 82,674. Sorry, one sec. There we go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep my stop loss just below the local lows there. Sorry, 2. Yeah, if we go a little higher, I'll update my stop loss to break even, but I'm going to leave it just below this low for now. But yeah, generally speaking, whenever I enter a position, I like to treat the first half of my position as a scalp because I like to ensure that I pay my fees quickly. I reduce some risk. Like, honestly, that's more than anything. If I get stopped out now, at least it's going to be a much smaller loss because I have locked in some profits as well as made my position smaller. So if I get stopped out from here, it'll at least soften the blow quite a bit. But yeah, I like to take profits quickly for that reason. And then I like to leave half my position run if I can get my stop loss to break even. I love doing that because you never know if the position is going to turn into a home run, right? If you're trying to turn every trade into a home run, you're going to get wrecked because the market loves to range more than it likes to just go parabolic or inverse parabolic. So basically the way I look at it is I generally like to play the range first and then hope for a breakout after that. I know a lot of people will often ask me, Stu, do you think I'm in this position. Do you think I should take profits or leave it run? If you're asking yourself that, what I do in that situation is I close at least a quarter of it, if not a half of it. And then at least, or I also like to ask myself, if I'm in a nice trade right now and it's really running in my favor and I have nice profits there, if this reverses and stops me out, and I don't lock in any profits, am I going to be disappointed in myself? If the answer is yes, then I will start taking profits. Like, something you always have to do when you're entering positions, when you're looking at entering positions, always consider the fact, or the question rather, what is the worst case scenario if I take this trade, or what's worst case scenario if I don't do this, or whatever, right? Always understand what your backup plan is and what the plan B, or just what the opposite outcome means for you, right? Sui is seeing a nice little bounce here. It's actually bouncing a lot more aggressively than Bitcoin is so far. Oh, just catching up on the chat here, you guys. Hurley, good to see you here. KO Bitcoin recovering. I don't know if it's recovering or not. I would say a giant 4-hour candle closed, and I would assume, as if this was a 1 minute or a 5 minute chart, it's very natural to retest into the previous candle. That is a massive 4-hour candle. We haven't seen a red candle that big in a very long time. So even if we tested right back up to the top, like I said, I would be very interested in looking at the resistance up here for a retest. If we bounce from here, I don't necessarily see it as bullish, as much of just a reaction, basically. Average risk to reward. That depends, because it always depends how many of my laddered entries are being hit, right? Because typically when I take a trade setup, I will often have about 4 entries. So obviously if I hit all my entries, something like this, and then get stopped out up here, obviously if my average entry is further up here, then it's going to be a much larger reward to risk ratio there. So it really depends how many entries hit. Also depends, sometimes I don't take a Stuber fib, right? If something's looking like it's strong or I want to wait and see a reaction at this level, then sometimes I'll just wait and see if I can get a swing fail of retesting higher up, for example. In which case, if you're waiting for a swing fail and you're seeing something like this, that's obviously, again, a much tighter setup than just entering at the 786. Like, I don't enter positions like, hey, I'm putting my whole position at the 786, because in that case, you wouldn't actually have that great of risk reward if you did something like that, especially if you had your stop loss above the 215. Like even the 214 target in that case would be 1.3 to 1. But when you can start bringing that average entry up, that's where it becomes a lot more appealing, right? So that even if you lose, it's like, well, if I have close to a 5 to 1 risk reward or something like that, then it doesn't feel so bad to take those losses, right? Hype long incoming. I'll check out Hype in a minute here. Where do I plan to go for a trip? Gonna do a road trip, hit some mountains, go snowboarding. Yeah, let's bring up Hype. Yeah, so Hype, for example, on the 5-minute, we do have this little break here. I'm going to consider that a bullish break because on this downtrend here, we had a low, lower low. That's our lower high. So now if we could pull back and get a Stuber fib, something like that. I would consider taking a long entry on something like that. If we keep climbing, then I would just end up chasing the price with this, right? The Fibonacci, the range, it would all grow if the price continues climbing from here. But if it does reverse from here after that little structure break, then I'd be looking at something like this. I mean, starting at the 786, right? But laddering in a few entries if given the opportunity, kind of a thing. And again, just, yeah, if you're going to play a small range like this, yeah, the take profits are very close. And depending how you feel about fees and all that sort of stuff, maybe it's not worth it to you, in which case you just need to be pulling bigger Fibonacci's in that case, much like this one that I pulled, right? Being Bitcoin is possibly getting rejected on that sell trend, I'm actually going to close another quarter of my position because it's still at 29% profit. And I'm just going to bump my stop loss to break even now. I don't want to take a loss on that position. I can always end up taking a new long later if I want, but I just don't feel overly bullish on this market right now. So at least worst case. So I ended up taking a quarter profits at 33%, another quarter profits at 29%. So what's the average on that? 31. So I have locked in approximately 15% on this trade with a break-even stop loss at this point. So even if this goes against me, at least it was a successful scalp. And honestly, I was just looking at it as a hedge anyways. But yeah, whatever. Take it as a scalp. Sui, if we wanted to look for a new short on this, if it keeps flying to the upside here, we could look for something like this, much like with Bitcoin, right? Which is good because my stop loss is at break even are above the Stuber fib pocket. So I'm hoping that this is one of those times where if we get up here, I'm hoping the bears step in quick and we just test the 786 and go right back down. If they get stopped at break even, then I'll be looking for a swing fail or something like that. Actually, speaking of that, I will set an alert on that line. Phone will annoy me every minute until I check if we end up testing that level. So if I see a rejection along that resistance level, obviously that means my other two positions are stopped out at break even on the rest. And then I'd be looking for a new position if it ends up getting a rejection there. Like if we just kind of wick above, closing candle bodies below it, getting red candle bodies closing below it, that's where I'll be looking to short again. But I don't know. I wouldn't be too surprised if the bears stepped in a little before that and just end up pushing to the downside again because, a lot happened today. There was tariff speeches. It was, what was it? Liberation Day or whatever. Yeah, Trump basically tariffed the whole world. And, from a fundamental level, that's one thing to consider. And then from a structural level, none of my structure points, none of my red flags on the macro structure of this chart have changed. The reason I'm still bearish and seem like a perma bear is just because nothing's been invalidated that I've been warning about for the last few months. And guys, if you have been, with me for these live streams in the Telegram, whatever, if you've been appreciating that I generally keep a level head about the markets and I'm not getting sucked into echo chambers, not up only mentality, looking at this as a realistic trader, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. You don't want to miss these streams. We've had some nice warnings on here. So just curious, Adrian, is that what you were looking at on Hype? Or you did say 1 minute, but same thing. Structure actually broke even earlier on the 1 minute too. Still the same setup, but we could look at something like this where technically this would have been our lowest low before this one. So then our structure was actually right there. And when that broke, that's obviously a very micro structure, but that microstructure broke there. And then we continued to the upside, right? So now that things look like they're reversing, that's where we can start looking for that Stuber fib pullback, right? Yeah, I had a feeling that was the setup you were looking at. And you know what? If it keeps climbing to the upside and this doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen, right? Like that's the thing with these setups. It's not that it has to happen. It's just that, hey, if it happens and I have the proper structure and whatnot, then I am willing to take that position or at least, heavily consider that position if my criteria is met, right? It's not that it has to happen, but that's where I always say that being able to react is so much more important than being able to predict. Because you need to be able to react to, well, if the price does this, this is what I'm going to do. If the price goes this way instead, here's what I'm going to look for. People who are telling you they're certain which way we're going, honestly, I tend not to listen to those people. There needs to be some sort of a reasoning for a setup. There needs to be invalidation levels for setups. That's how we trade. We don't trade by saying, well, any day there's going to be a tweet that's going to send the markets to all-time highs. That's not how we trade, because that might not happen. We trade on what the chart actually gives us, not on what we hope happens to show up. And that is honestly my big ass fear on the monthly chart, because we have bearish structure, we have bearish signals, we have more bearish signals, a lot of things giving warning signs that are momentum indicators, right? The Wave Master is a serious momentum indicator, and it has crossed bearish, just like it did back here. Just like it did back here. Warning reversals lining up with them perfectly. We already got those. Yeah. It is what it is, guys. I wish I had better news, but in my opinion, the chart doesn't look great at this time, right? Like I keep saying, if this weekly time frame invalidates this bearish divergence on the RSI, I will strongly consider being a moon boy again. I will still have my concerns. I will still have some bearish theories, but at least I'll be open to the idea that something has been invalidated. Because as it stands, every single macro red flag I've been talking about since Christmas is still there. Nothing has changed on the monthly or weekly chart other than it actually got a little bit worse. Especially the monthly. The monthly charts got significantly worse in the last few months. I don't look for swing fails at the 115. The 115, well, I leave a little wiggle room past that, but the 115 is kind of my invalidation to a swing fail. So like in this case, the swing fail would be the 1, right? This is the high, our local high. So if we came up, did something like this, then form red candle rejection, I would love to short something like that. With invalidation above the 115 a little bit. That's how I treat them anyways. But you guys, obviously, like before you throw money on trade setups and stuff, like understand one of the best things you can do for yourself is use this replay feature on TradingView. Do some back testing, make sure you're looking at things the same, because there can be things that are misunderstood or missed and you look at things completely different, or your eye doesn't catch the same things mine do, or whoever else you're listening to. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, all that matters is how you execute your plans. You can lay out the same plans that I have, but if you trade it completely different, and I assume you would, because honestly, we could have the same trend lines, same indicators, same Fibonacci's. I guarantee pretty much guarantee that we're going to trade this market completely different. So you need to do some homework, use that replay feature, find out what works for you. And then at least you have some sort of a systematic trade setup, right? Have a set of rules, write out a set of rules before you take trades and back test that theory. Have your take profits, have your stop losses, and stick to a systematic strategy rather than thinking, well, you know what, this would be my target, but rather than setting a take profit, I'm just going to see how it reacts at that level. And then all of a sudden you missed your take profit chance altogether and your risk reward has gone straight out the window, etc. Right? The bigger play at hand, that's an interesting comment. The bigger play at hand with the Treasury Secretary backing the US dollar with Bitcoin. Here's my thing with that. Although I agree that is a bullish fundamental, I can't help but feel like if they were smart, and I really like to think that they're smarter than they let on sometimes, but if they were smart, they would not want to ape trillions of dollars into all-time highs. They would want a bear market to accumulate it at a decent price. So honestly, the way I look at it, if smart money really, really wants something, I think that they would want it cheaper. And I think they're going to do what they can to make things cheaper and to buy the things that they want, right? So although I agree with bullish fundamentals mattering over time, understand that those bullish fundamentals may be a next market thing, right? Maybe it happens this cycle. That's exactly why I have invalidations to my structure and my indicators, all that sort of stuff. There's always invalidation levels, so I will shut up about my bearish theories if anything changes there. But just looking at it from, I guess, a bit of just a neutral, unemotional point of view, if I was sitting on a ton of money and I really was in no rush to cash in or anything like that, I would absolutely want to be buying things cheaper. Smart money does not generally make their billions by aping into all-time highs and pumping other people's bags. That's just not generally how it works. So that's where I think that, yes, if countries and a whole bunch of, large businesses, stuff like that, start using Bitcoin as a bit of a treasury or whatever, I'm kind of looking at it that, you know what, if the technicals back that theory up, I'm all for it. But while the technicals are bearish and, we're constantly having these bullish things rammed down our throats for the last several months, but all Bitcoin is actually able to do is set lower lows and lower highs. That doesn't feel like a bull market. Although, yes, it would be totally normal to still have sell the news events. Even in a bull market, you would still have, okay, this bullish fundamental happens, and after it, you do get some sort of a pullback. The difference is, generally speaking, in a bull market, when you have bullish fundamentals happening, you will set a slightly higher high and then pull back, and then a higher high and then pull back, which would lead us to, forming bullish Stuber fibs, for example. But instead, every time we get bullish fundamentals happening and, bullish tweets, bullish whatever ram down our throats, we get a rally and we set a lower high, and we often set a bearish Stuber fib setup instead. So bullish news, bearish price action. That doesn't feel like a bull market to me anymore. And especially when, like I said, with all these technicals on the longer time frames showing momentum shifting and that sort of stuff, I just have my concerns, guys. That's all there is to it. Bearish until proven otherwise. And I'm very open to being a moon boy again. Like, I understand that the reason why I'm totally okay with this happening, if, for one, if we end up blasting through the upside, my spot bags are going to be very happy because I still have my investments. But that being said, understand that I wasn't FOMOing into crypto up here. I was FOMOing into crypto down here. So I'm okay looking at things bearishly now. I have taken profits on this market. I have traded the upside for a couple of years. I'm okay with it if the market reverses from here, but so many people waited until we were back at all-time highs to get back in the market, and then they think they're promised easy money from there. Understand that every market cycle gets diminishing returns. Every market cycle gets smaller on percentage-wise. The dollar amount gets way bigger. But percentage-wise, these market cycles all get significantly smaller. So the one thing that still bugs me a little bit, and why I think we should have another bullish move to new all-time highs, is simply because I was really expecting another 6 months to a year of a bull market. I wasn't really expecting it to get cut so short. But that being said, you guys, so many people in the space, this whole market cycle, everyone was saying this cycle's different. And I seriously, after what the monthly chart is doing, what the weekly chart is doing, I strongly believe that everyone who said this cycle will be different was correct, but I think they were very incorrect about what that meant. I don't, we're promised meme coin super cycles. I mean, meme coins, they can't even, like, the devs are selling within seconds now. Meme coins, there's millions being created every week. It's absolutely nuts. The market, the altcoin market, is so diluted. We have trade wars. There's just so much going on in the world. And again, more importantly, because like I said, I only really care about structure. The structure is just not good. That's all there is to it. Yeah, we all catch the bottom and sell the tops in hindsight. And that's why I'm a big fan of laddering in, right? It's just that I don't think now is necessarily the time to be dollar cost averaging in from a bullish perspective. Um, next bear market. And that's the thing too, right? Is a lot of people, if this bear market does go much further, even on social media and stuff, there's a lot of people I used to see posting all the time and they are not posting at all anymore. You're seeing a lot of people disappear and people do not like the bearish price action. Whereas people who are willing to take profits and willing to trade the downside, like I'm here. The reason I love Bitcoin is because it's volatile. The reason I love crypto is because it's volatile. I am very bullish on it. I use it every day. But just in general, the reason I love it so much is because it's volatile. And whether that's the upside or the downside, I really don't care because I'm a trader. I am not a moon boy. I'm not a perma bear. I just like trading the volatility, and whichever way that goes, I don't care. There's a special feeling to both. Parabolic runs are great, but when you make money to the downside, there's a special feeling there too. Oh, don't even get me started, Adrian. And honestly, guys, actually, I know what he's getting at, and I'm not going to point out names, but understand that when price action gets bearish, that's a very good opportunity to pay attention to who's actually traders and who isn't. Because there's a lot of people with very large followings who maybe got lucky or make money on clickbait, whatever. Just understand that, if people are only posting one direction forever and they refuse to change their mind with the price action, just understand the difference between an influencer and a trader, right? I like to keep this channel as trading content. I like to look at it very realistically. And unfortunately, that doesn't always make friends because not everybody likes to see the price move to the downside. But as traders, if you're actually trading this market, it shouldn't matter which way the market's going. It really shouldn't. Anyways, guys, I need to get around to some last minute packing and planning here. So I think that's about all I really wanted to go over today. Hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss these live streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, some of my trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the markets in general, there is a link down below for that, and as well that QR code. And the steps are in the description down below to join. So again, hopefully you guys appreciated this. If so, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe. Hope to see you guys in the Telegram channel. I will be traveling for the next few days, so I will not be streaming until probably early or mid next week, somewhere in there. Also, guys, those of you who are in my channel, our partners at BloFin, are still giving us this promotion. My followers still get this with some wonderful cash back as well as trading volume bonuses. There is still a few days left on this promotion. It's been running for almost a month now. Hopefully you took advantage of that. That runs until April 6th. So if that's something that interests you, get in there. But yeah, other than that, guys, I hope you all have a fantastic evening, fantastic rest of your week, weekend, etc., etc. Please survive these markets. Be very careful, you guys. Things are obviously very volatile right now. So just be careful out there. Don't forget to pay yourself when you can. Don't forget to, reduce your risk when you can and that sort of thing. And yeah, head on a swivel, guys. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much for joining once again. Peace out.